I now call the June 18th, 2025 meeting of the Wallingford-Swarthmore School Board to order. In opening, as you are willing and able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Mosley, would you please take attendance roll call?
Mrs. Dole?
Here.
Dr. Grande?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mrs. Holbert? Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Watman?
Here.
Mrs. Witset?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Wachowski Smith?
Here.
8 voting members present.
Thank you. Moving on to Superintendent's report and Dr. Johnston.
Thank you so much, Mr. Henry. Really a pleasure to be with you here tonight to provide my update for you. And I just want to model for all the board members the way that I'm leaning into my microphone. We heard some feedback after our last meeting that it was a little hard sometimes for the public to hear. And I know that AJ and his team have really worked on this and they've made sure that the microphones are fully working. But something that will help, and if board members could just remember, hold that microphone closer to you as we present tonight, because we are really committed to making sure, I know each and every one of you wants the public to hear the deliberation that goes on here together. So thank you to AJ, and thank you to committee members who reached out to us after the last meeting. So I am continuing to work to implement my entry plan, and it has been an outstanding 7 weeks that I've been here in Wallingford-Swarthmore. And it's really given me this opportunity to get to know the community as best as you can in 7 weeks. And it's just with genuine gratitude that I express my appreciation for all that I've learned about this amazing school district and this community. So a major emphasis for my first 100 days is to get to know the people, the systems, the culture and traditions of the district. And so I launched an entry plan, a 100-day entry plan that included 4 major components. First, just document review. What can I learn by looking at what's on paper? Also looking at data, so data review as well. The third part of what I've done in these first 100 days is to conduct what are called entry interviews, just sitting down with individuals and groups to hear about their experiences and to learn and think about what they can tell me about what I need to know about this amazing place. And then finally, observation. Being in classrooms, being at events, just to see what it's all about, what does it look like for our students, who I know we all care so deeply about. And so to date, particularly as we look at kind of unpacking each of those, before I started this position, I asked the administrative team here to just give me a list of documentation of the systems that we have in place. And so that was informative and helpful. Also data presentations. So that's how I kind of got inside the documentation and the data side of it. For the entry interviews, I reached out to really strategically to many different groups. For example, all of the homeschool associations and the PTOs, all of our board members, every cabinet member, our principals, and really importantly, the students. And so particularly at the high school, I focused on student groups that I could get to. School was ending, so it's been certainly a challenge, but I really appreciated getting to 10 student groups. And there was a real range. I didn't want to just speak with one type of student with one viewpoint of experience at Strathaven. I wanted to meet with a wide variety of students. And I appreciate this board's push to make sure that I was listening to the voices of students who were from communities that have been most historically marginalized. And so sitting down with the students really helped me kind of formulate an even better sense of what it means to experience our education system here and what we should do about it. And as a quick funny anecdote, as I sit in these meetings and I'm listening, the student meetings were all small group. Afterwards, a couple of the students said to me, "How is it that you can type and look at us at the same time?" And it just showed the difference in education, right? Because when I was in high school, I took a touch typing class, and our students take things like CAD and computer engineering, right? And so it was one of those moments where you realize how far education has come, and it's really what we want to have happen for our students. I also held open office hours at each of the schools. So 2 to 3 hours, just sitting and listening to teachers. And that was really illuminating. And it came a little later here in June. And it gave me a chance to kind of start to probe some of what I was hearing and to go a little deeper in the conversations about this great place and to hear both their concerns and as well as the the things that they hold most dear about this district and want to maintain and want to keep in place. And across the board in every one of these discussions, I always started with what are the strengths? What are the assets? Sometimes I framed it as what do you cherish the most about this community that you never want us to lose sight of? I don't want to be the new guy who comes in and takes away the things that make us true to who we are. And a lot of what I heard about was an appreciation for the involvement of our families, that families new to the district, families who've been here for generations, all have their eyes on one thing, and that's amazing outcomes for their students. And it was just really encouraging to hear that one after another. Also, a deep appreciation for the arts and music. And I can sit here today and feel like I've almost been at because I think being there we'll be seeing it and experiencing it. But being at a Friday night football game and hearing the band come over the bridge was recounted to me by person after person, such that it's almost like a memory of my own right now because of how often it came up and how proud people are. And really this belief that, you know, with Wallingford in particular, not really having a downtown, how much the schools serve as a community hub and those Friday night games, as well as our plays, as well as our arts events, are so important for the lifeblood of this community, defining who we are. And I just really appreciated that sense of strength of our families, the strength of traditions, and the strength of the belonging and identity that comes with all of that I think is so important. So what have I been doing with all this information? I've been collecting a lot. I took what I heard and I categorized it relative to the 5 pathways in our strategic plan. Because like I said in May, I embraced the strategic plan that this district developed. And I think it's important that, again, as the new person in this role, that I'm not wanting to disrupt that. I want to make sure we implement it well. I know the community involvement that went into developing that plan, and I want to make sure that we stay true to that. And so as I'm hearing about different things and, you know, what are some aspects of the strategic plan that still need to be put in place, or where there's sort of building blocks that we also want to make sure we don't overlook, I started making a list. I think I just categorizing everything relative to the 5 pathways. And my list right now stands, deep breath, at about 65 potential priorities. We cannot take on 65 priorities all at once. So the work that I've done, you know, throughout these weeks now is to think about how do we narrow it down. And I really appreciate the work of this cabinet who are here with me tonight and our principals to offer their input and to offer their voices. I've shown them this list and worked with them on how can we narrow it down. I also appreciate the input I've received from board members in that process as well. So we are arriving at a more, sort of concise, hopefully focused list of what can we do in my year 1 that will really be the kind of important steps that we can continue to build on. And I would say publicly right now, they fit into 2 categories. Let's just, put all of this into 2 categories. First, instructional improvements, and then second, operational improvements. And when I think about the instructional improvements, here are the key things that I want to see us working on. First, just improving professional development. The key asset we have is our teachers. And we want to just continue to bring up the best in them. I heard over and over again what amazing educators we have and how much we can support them further, right? To just continue to grow their practice through providing high quality professional development. And then just our use of data. How can we make sure we're seeing the reality of all of our students by looking more closely at their results, not just on academic results, but also on social and emotional and behavioral health, so that we can really better understand what is helping our students and what do we need to work to further improve. And then the third thing related to instructional improvement is just implementing our new instructional material. So much work was put into the adoption of arts and letters, for example, at the elementary level for this upcoming school year. We just need to make good on that promise and implement it well. And I know our team is really excited about doing that. In fact, just last week on Friday, we had an optional session for our teachers to come and learn more about what will be available to them in the fall and what they could even get started with this summer. And again, it was optional. And I am so proud of our teachers that in the high school library, it was packed. I can't imagine there was a teacher who didn't come. Our teachers came, they wanted to get this information, they're thirsty for it. And so how can our cabinet, our principals, and our teachers all work together to successfully implement new instructional materials. That will be so important. And then the final area within instructional improvements is just expanding our wellness, social, emotional, and behavioral health supports. And I put it in that same category. Instruction relates to both the academic instruction as well as the social, mental health, and behavioral health supports we're providing our students. And so really all throughout that though, we're really focusing on inclusion and belonging and equity to make sure that just shines through in all of the work we're doing. And I'm really excited about the sort of strength of this team and focusing on making sure this is embedded work that we do and that we stand proud around. Then around operational improvements, we are excited tonight for the board to consider a vote on launching a capital plan. And that's another thing, another area where it's a promise we want to make good on and think about the type of ways in which the learning environment can contribute to improved outcomes for students, improved learning experiences. And then continuing to develop our budget framework. Also in the category of operational improvements, expanding our communication efforts, and also improving our human resources function, because again, we're not in a factory making widgets. We have people. All we have is people. And so human resources, how we support our teachers, how we're bringing in new teachers, how we're attracting talent, maintaining talent will really matter about the quality and services we can provide for our students. So I just want to stress what a joy it has been to join this community and to embark on this journey with all of you. And while I just listed the improvements we will work on together next year, I just want to stress again what an amazing foundation of excellence in public education that we are building on here together. This is a special place with a unique sense of excellence, of equity, of student-centeredness and inclusivity that you frankly don't find commonly in other places. And just 7 weeks into this job, I want you to know that I hold those qualities here. This is very important to me that we see the strengths that we have and work to address where we can continue to make improvements for our students. So I'm excited about what the next year will bring us, and I look forward to continuing to update this board and the community along the way. A few other updates because we don't have a student with us this month, and there's some important student events that have happened. So I do apologize, Mr. Henry. I do need to report on some great things that our students have accomplished, and I just want to start with our Ultimate Frisbee team. Our Ultimate Frisbee team, both our boys team and the SHUGX team, qualified for the national championships. They had already accomplished mightily in the state championships. In fact, leading up to the national championships, our SHUGX team defended the USA Ultimate Pennsylvania State Championship, and our boys finished third overall. The boys team finished in fifth place in nationals, and the SHUGX team finished in 14th place, just missing the opportunity to move on to the quarterfinals. So we look for other ways that will celebrate our players and coaches because this just happened last weekend and we're so proud of their work. In addition, the girls varsity lacrosse team unfortunately lost to the Villa Maria Hurricanes 12-8 in the state Division 2A final on a rainy day at State College on Saturday, but they concluded their season as the state runner-up and a really remarkable achievement for any team. We're so proud of our girls lacrosse team. In addition, our high Q team visited the Pennsylvania State Capitol to celebrate their national championships. And our representative, Leanne Kruger was there to receive them and to celebrate them as well. A couple other quick updates, just what's happening this summer. The WSSD summer music program will run until July 10th, and on July 10th at 6:30, there'll be a performance at Strathaven High School. In addition, while we sit here in this library, some of our high school students are off on an incredible 3-week adventure to Germany. So after an 8-hour layover in Dublin, they'll head to Berlin, then up to explore other sites in Germany, and they'll spend 2 weeks living with host families, fully immersing themselves in German culture. And then over the summer, we'll be welcoming our new teachers on August 13th and 14th, and we can't wait to have our students back on August 25th because it is a little dreary here without them. We do miss them already. Final reminder that we have office hours, summer hours. We have summer hours during the summer here in our school district. And so our offices are closed because of the extended days that our team works Monday through Thursday. So offices will be closed on Fridays for the summer. And we're also closed for the holidays coming up tomorrow and on July 4th. So thank you. That is my report, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Great summary. Thank you very much. Thank you for recognizing all the amazing stuff our students are doing. We move now to board announcements, and the board met in executive session prior to this meeting, and I want to thank the board for showing up extra early this week. We had a lot of stuff going beforehand. Now we move on to audience recognition, and this is in response to items for action on the agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, we do need, sorry, that was on. We do have under the superintendent's report. No, you're ready to do it. We're going to move to the final budget report presented by Ms. Mosley. So my apologies. I skipped over.
That's fine. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dewana Mosley. I am the business administrator for the district. Today, I will be presenting the final 2025-2026 general fund budget. Displayed here is the agenda for today. I will start the presentation by doing a recap of the proposed budget that was presented at the May 14th Finance Committee meeting, as well as the May 19th board meeting. I would encourage all stakeholders to watch the recordings of both meetings on the district's YouTube. After giving a recap, I will discuss what budgetary changes have happened since May 19th, as well as an updated of the total final expenditures, the total final revenues with an updated recommended final tax increase, and the recommended use of some of the district's committed fund balance. So just to recap the proposed budget from May 19th, we discussed including in that budget, the district hired a new superintendent, amended senior cabinet contracts, settled Act 93's compensation plan, as well as WSSD's employee compensation plan. Also included in this budget at the time were projected costs for Teamsters, exempt and confidential employee compensation plans. We did not have tentative agreements at that time, so we just had budgeted amounts reflected. Also included confirmed employee benefit changes. PEASER's contribution rate for the state of PA increased 34% from 33.9%. The district's medical rates increased 5.76%, and the dental rates increased 6.28%. Just to put that in perspective, if we were to take a snapshot of all existing employees at the time, that still would have been about a $600,000 cost increase just with those increases. Next, some of the new positions that were added to the budget. I just want to remind the public that any personnel positions that have been discussed or mentioned in any finance committee meeting reflected the total cost of the district. In the April Finance Committee meetings where we really outlined all of the new positions that were being added. Just a reminder, as a rule of thumb, for school district business, usually you calculate about 63% of the benefit cost of what the salary cost is. And that includes, of course, the PEASER's rates you see there, the employer taxes, as well as we usually budgeted for family medical plan. And we also talked about at the April Finance Committee meeting, depending on the compensation plan, where we budget those vacancies. So for our teachers, it's master step 5. For support staff, it's step 4 of their appropriate salary range. For Act 93, it's year 5 of their appropriate classification. And just to highlight, these are positions that we separated the positions as the new positions where it required new funding, and then positions that were external that were becoming internal positions. Highlighted here are the 2 administrative positions that are being added, the supervisor of instructional technology. The purpose of that position is to provide guidance and direction to faculty, staff, and students by developing integrating technology to support the curriculum across various content areas. So again, this position will help use all of the different applications, platforms, online curriculum that we use to provide that support to students and teachers. And then the procurement position, this is kind of an extension of a position that the district used to have a purchasing person. I'm not sure why that position was eliminated. However, procurement is an expansion or a prerequisite, as you will, of purchasing. Currently, the district does not frequently practice competitive bidding. So implementing this position is to ensure, if we're following that procurement process, to ensure the district is receiving the best services, equipment, products for the best possible price. And the goal of this position is to actually help reduce district costs. And then by doing that, reducing existing costs, the district will have the ability to reallocate those dollars for another purpose. And then we talked about external to internal positions. So specifically a middle school and high school athletic trainer, we were able to reallocate all of the professional dollars for that service. So the net cost to add these two positions for the district was about $25,000. Two behavioral health counselors, again, we were able to reallocate all the professional service dollars for that service. The net cost to the district was about $40,000, and then added two non-certified nurses. We were able to reallocate some professional service dollars, and the net cost to the district was about $80,000. However, the need for our nurses increased due to student IEPs and requests and things like that. So that's why all of those dollars were not reallocated for that service. We also discussed the continuation of positions with the TOSAs. Originally in the budget, I think maybe around March or April, when we were talking about finalizing the budget, we had 3 TOSAs. This budget does include 6. I just want to remind the public that when district first presented this amount of TOSAs for this 24-25 school year, it was presented to the public and to the board repeatedly as a 1-year offering. So again, it was the original understanding that those funds were going to be reallocated. So again, just wanted to remind the public that it wasn't that we were trying to do away with it. That was every public meeting discussion was this was a 1-year offering. However, the current leadership team is focusing on a long-term model of support that Dr. Johnson just mentioned for the teachers, that the TOSAs will shift to more of an instructional coach model, which is basically like a teacher for the teacher. He talked about that in significant detail at the May Finance Committee meeting. So again, I just remind the public that the opportunity to view some of the recordings in more detail. Next, we talked about operational expenditure changes. There was a major reduction in the allotment for education service agreements. In this year's budget, there was 1.7 million allocated for education service agreements, with about 1.4 actually already committed. And those are the agreements that our board approved. So this is the district's obligated to pay whatever those costs are. For this upcoming year, we have about 1.2 million for ESAs, and about a little bit over $1 million is already committed. So again, that extra buffer is, that the board does approve ESAs throughout the year. So we want to make sure you have those funds available for those added expenditures. We also removed the planned budgetary transfer to capital. I'll explain that a little bit more into the presentation. And then there was a reduction in our charter tuition. We had several students graduate and a couple actually return to the district. So you'll see that reflected in our budget. And then lastly, we talked about analyzing the fiscal baseline. 24-25 was used as our baseline year as we try to move forward with this multi-year budget cycle. That included correcting a lot of expenditure codes in 23-24. I'm gonna say it was very hard to try to project what costs would be because expenditures may not have been charged to the correct area. So to give an example, if that budget line was 300,000, but maybe 200,000 should have been charged there, it's not a fair analysis of what the district is actually spending in that area. So a lot of 23-24 was just correcting those codes. We also conducted at the time of the proposed budget 2 cost analysis, one in January, one in April. And then we also talked about, as the district's thinking about this 10-year capital plan, any excess funds from the current fiscal year being added to the debt service fund. That was one of the committed fund balances the board approved in January. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, removal of planned capital, instead of moving any funds, planning capital transfers at the end of every year, to move those excess funds to that capital fund. And what that would actually do is help offset the millage increase necessary to fund the capital plan. So here were the proposed expenditures, just to highlight there, it was a total of $105,187,267.52. We also talked about the taxable assessed value at the proposed budget meeting. Just to give a highlight of this as a reminder, School district does not determine assessed value or property type, so that's residential, commercial, or tax exempt. The county does that. If you look specifically here in 24-25, the district's total assessed value, meaning this is the assessed value that actually taxes can be charged upon, was a little less than 2.6 billion. That actually dropped about $5.7 million. That can happen if properties become tax exempt, if, someone appeals the value of their property. If you recall, in 2020, the county did a countywide reassessment. They usually do that every 20 to 25 years. But again, like I said, the district doesn't determine that value. But to put in perspective and why this is important, the total assessed value of the district is basically the value of one millage. So if you take the millage rates of the district and multiply that times 2.6, that's how you generally come up with our total taxable local revenue. But again, I wanted to mention this, but because the total tax assessed value for the district decreased, that means if the district was not to raise taxes or change the millage rates at all, we would still generate about $175,000 less because our tax assessed value drops off. To think about that, to make it comparable, think about it as inflation, like the value of a dollar. So as that value of that dollar drop, you don't get to spend the same amount every year. So that's kind of the same thing with our tax dollars. So at the time, the proposed tax increase was a 2.79% tax increase, with the millage for another Providence and Rogue Valley being 30.9, and for Rutledge and Swarthmore being 31.159. My apologies. So now we're going to talk specifically about what has changed since May 19th. First and foremost, there's the settlement of the 4 remaining compensation plans for the salary supervised employees, confidential employees, Teamsters, and non-certified nurse. All of those are on the agenda to be board approved today. I really want to commend all of the administrative staff, especially Human Resources Department, for all of their joint work and getting those compensation plans settled. Not just from a logistical perspective, but the amount of work necessary, but from a fiscal standpoint, to settle 6 compensation plans in 1 year is a lot. Just to give you an example, that's kind of like if you had 5 different credit cards, charge something, and then the next month, all of the minimum due payments came due. Like, that's a huge jump in your fiscal obligation. So we did strategically stagger all the renewal compensation plans. Going forward, the district will have 1 bargaining group and 1 non-bargaining group renewing every year. Right now, we don't have any compensation plans due to renew until 2028, but we also stagger those compensation plans to be fiscally compatible. So your largest non-bargaining is with your smallest non-bargaining employee group. So again, from a cost perspective, you're not having those same jumps at the same time. Next, Human Resource confirmed all of our personnel, so provided a confirmation of each person's fiscal year salary or their hourly rate. Provided a list of all new hires as far as replacing any retirees or resignations. Again, I do want to commend Human Resources. A lot of the retirees and resignations received for this year have already been filled. The benefit of that is, like I said, any vacancies, usually put that budgeted amount in. However, by having those positions filled now, we were actually able to put the confirmed numbers, confirmed information in, and then the cost difference reallocate some of those dollars. So, like I said, again, want to thank Human Resources for that, as well as confirm the list of all of our existing vacancies. So to make sure we have all of the correct number of positions included in our budget. Next is our insurance renewals. We did receive those on June 5th. The total premium is about a little less than $670,000. That's about a $54,000 increase. And then just wanted to mention specifically the insurance premiums that did increase was our property, inland, and marine. The company actually did about a 7 to 10% rate increase across their entire book of business for PA. However, WSSD came in on the lower end, around 7%, due to the district's clean property loss history. Our workers' comp insurance premium increased about $22,000, which is almost 16% from last year. That's due to almost a 5% increase in estimated payroll. The district had 3 claims in 2022, 2023 that totaled almost $550,000, as well as an increase in our experience modification factor. And that's just basically, if you're as a company, if we were to file a workers' comp claim, it would come in more of the higher end than normal. So again, that rate was reflected. And lastly, there was an increase of about $20,000 to our umbrella excess policy. Again, historically, the cost for this liability insurance used to be very cheap. So for about $1 million worth of coverage, it only cost about $1,000 worth of premium. So to put that in perspective, I can get $50 million worth of liability for $50,000. Over the last couple of years with added exposure and higher losses, like companies actually experiencing losses, the market shifted and the price has increased significantly. So to put that in perspective, if the district was to have kept the same amount of liability we had this year, it would have cost an additional $80,000, which is another staff person. So we did work with our insurance carrier to identify the appropriate amount of coverage for the district. For that, for about $5 million less, there still was about a $35,000 increase for the district. And then lastly, we conducted a third cost analysis and revenue analysis through May 30th. So we looked at, again, we have 11 out of 12 months of actual data for revenue collected and expenditures, and then we made some small adjustments. So the overall net increase since the proposed budget that was presented in May 19th is $165,342.93. Again, you see most of that cost reflected in the salary and benefits as you settled for employee compensation plan since then with actual numbers. There was a net increase in our 500 line here. That's where those insurance renewals are. And you see a few minors, like I said, reductions. Like I said, with that cost analysis, we did have a few expenditures that were duplicate. So we were able to go back through and subtract those. So like I said, the net increase from the proposed budget was $165,342.93. And then this is just the final budget in comparison to this year's, the 2024-2025 budget. Just go through each object line. So of course, there's about $2.6 million increase in salaries. You're, again, just to give some detail, year 2 of your teacher salary and also the settlement of 6 employee compensation plans and the addition of 19 total positions that were added to the budget. You have about a 1.9 increase in benefits. And again, that's the natural increase from salaries and the new positions, as well as that 5.76% increase in medical costs. We have a reduction of about $155,000 at our professional service line. Again, that's due to moving some of those contract positions from external to internal, as well as the benefit of multi-year contracts. We were able to decelerate some of those increased costs. Again, prior to, the district used to renew a lot of contract annually. We've actually extended some of those contracts to be 3, 4, 5 years. And for some of those contracts, there's no increase if we lock in that price. There's a small increase of about $20,000 for purchase property services. That cost actually, we had to increase the repair line for our transportation department. There's about a $222,000 decrease in the 500s, which is your purchase property services. Again, that's a result of that charter tuition we talked about. We had a lot more students graduate and some students actually come back. And then there's about a $228,000 increase in supplies, but I'm going to talk about that in correlation with the property line. Again, those two lines combined, there was actually a reduction of about $300,000. This was something we also analyzed again. We looked at the district's capitalization policy. There were a lot of things that were being charged to the 700s. But based off the district capitalization policy, anything that costs less than $5,000 by itself is treated as a regular supply. So again, you see there's about a $600,000 reduction for our, about a $527,000 reduction for property. So if you look at the fact that our supply costs actually went up about $228,000, like I said, that was actually about a net $300,000 savings there. Next, for the 800 lines, there's about a $600,000 decrease. Again, that's due to, like I mentioned earlier, those ESAs obligations. Like I said, we had about over a $500,000 reduction at that line. And then lastly, the $400,000 line here was the plan transfer to capital. As I said, going forward, it will be the recommendation of administration that any access funds at the end of every year to add to that debt service committed fund balance to help offset the millage necessary to fund the capital plan. I also just want to mention, if you look specifically, our budget final expenditures for next year, it's $105,352,610.45. I want to draw your attention to all of the items highlighted in red, because if you look at that, that was about $1.9 million that we actually were able to reallocate within the budget. So when we talk about being fiscally responsible and the importance of, thinking in the future and being, like I said, being proactive, if we if we plan better financially, you can use those same existing dollars to serve a different purpose, going forward. So now we're gonna go over the updated revenues. Like I said, based off of the changes that happened since May, the administration is recommending a little higher of a tax increase. The original proposal was 2.79. The final proposal is 2.85. And again, with that additional revenue analysis, the only revenues that changed was the current taxes as well as delinquent taxes. Again, this is one of the revenue sources we've talked about in great detail. It's one of your most volatile because the change, it's based on the taxes that have been paid. I do apologize about that. The district actually had a 99.6% collection rate this year, which is really good. We also budgeted for a 98% collection rate. So again, historically for the last 4 years, the district's averaged about 1.2 in delinquent taxes. However, this year we budgeted for 850 because of that trend of collection. We're on par to pass that, but again, it's still trending downward. So we budgeted less than we did last year, but this is still an increase from the proposed budget as we received about 345,000 in delinquent tax revenue from the county last month. So our total projected local revenues is $80,736,144 dollars. And like I said, that includes a 2.85% tax increase. So at that 2.85, Nether Providence and Rose Valley millage rates would be 30.9182, and Rutledge and Swarthmore would be 31.1711. Just again, remind the public that Rutledge and Swarthmore have a higher millage rate due to DCCC's operational costs. And again, just also want to remind the public that the budget for this year and the proposed tax increase for next year are in relative to the index are the two lowest tax increases for this district in the past decade. And then again, just wanted to show our tax increase as it relates to other Delco school districts. For some of these districts, this was their proposed budgets, but again, just wanted to put that in context for our community. If you look at a lot of our the other school districts, again, we have one of the most, if not the most unique tax makeup in the Commonwealth because of our lack of commercial property. And then our projected state revenues increased slightly, as I highlighted the two line items where there was an increase. And again, this is the state share of Social Security and PSER's retirement. The state reimburses us for half that cost. So again, because our personnel costs actually increased with the settlement of those contracts, naturally, both of these revenue sources increased as well. So the projected state revenues are $22,637,191.51. And then there were no changes to our federal revenue. We budgeted the same allocation for our consolidated grants that we received this year. And then we will be drawing down on the medical access funding that the district has. Again, Dr. Johnson also has talked in detail about implementing a pilot medical access program, which will be an additional revenue source for the district. And then lastly, again, the administration's recommendation for the committed fund balances. So just want to remind the public, there's two different buckets of money here. You have an unassigned fund balance, which is basically like your savings account. School districts, depending on your budget side, are allowed to have up to a certain percentage. Our budget is over 19 million. Any district that has a budget over 19 million is allowed to have up to 8% in their unassigned fund balance. So again, the recommendation to use these committed fund balances has no indication of our unassigned fund balance. The district does have 4 different committed fund balances, 2 that were established in January as a result of the fiscal 24 audit. We have self-insurance, retirement, millage, and debt service. It is the recommendation of administration to utilize $500,000 from our self-insurance committed fund balance to address the medical increase, that 5.76%. And then also utilize a little over $1 million in the millage. Again, just to remind the public, in January, the board set aside $1.5 million for this purpose to help offset or mitigate tax increases. So we're using those funds there. So it would be a combination of a little less than 1.6 from committed fund balances, which would leave the district with about 2.9. Again, reflected here as to be determined for the debt service. But again, the board did approve a little less than $500,000 in January. And just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier, any access funds going forward, it will be the recommendation to add those funds to that debt service bucket. So it'll help offset the like I said, the millage required to fund that capital plan that the board will be reviewing. And then just to finalize, all of our local, state, and federal revenues with the committed fund balance gives us a balanced budget of $105,352,610.45. It's been a lot of numbers, I'm sorry. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. I appreciate that. Okay, now, back. Before we move on, is there any questions? Ms. Mosley? Okay. Moving on to board announcements. The board did meet in executive session prior to this board meeting. Now moving on to audience recognition in response to items for action on the agenda. This is the time on the agenda where we give an opportunity for public comment for items on the agenda. We will have a time later for topics not on the agenda. As a reminder, public comment is a time for district residents and taxpayers to speak to the board about an issue that is before the board, may become before the board. It is a time for us to listen and hear perspectives and experiences from our community. While we can't answer questions directly, there's always an opportunity to follow up after the meeting. We want to give as many people as an opportunity to speak as possible, so we'll continue to follow our 3-minute time limit. We'll give you a heads up when you have 1 minute remaining. Once we hit the 3-minute time limit, I'll ask you to try to wrap up your final seconds. Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight about a topic on the agenda this evening? And I remind you, when you go up to the podium, as Rhoda is doing already, she's done this before, please give us your name and the street on which you live in our district. Rhoda, you're up, so go for it.
Hi,
Minutes for
I'm
that.
Rhoda O'Donnell and I live on McGill and Swarthmore. Thank you for the presentation. That was very helpful. I have a lot of concerns, as you all know, because I've been coming to these meetings about the budget. I don't understand why we need 16 new positions. I did a calculation. If we're paying those people the minimum of $45,000 a year, which I can guarantee you that many of them are making more than that, with their salary and benefits, we are paying more than 1 million extra dollars a year into the budget. My son, who graduated in 2015, his class was the largest graduating class that Strathaven has ever seen. So why are you guys okaying 16 new positions for a smaller class load? I don't think that is very fiscally responsible. I understand that there sometimes is a need for 1 or 2 new positions to deal with an issue, but this is 16 new positions. And I honestly think I'm angry when I look at that. And I think it's very fiscally irresponsible. I don't think that any of you has done the numbers or looked back on what kind of teachers and what kind of staff members that we had for more children. The numbers that we are talking about raising our taxes right now seem like small numbers when you're talking about them in year by year. But if you are talking about raising the taxes this amount from now until 2052, which is what was proposed in the Finance Committee meeting, you will raise my taxes around $6,000. Currently, we own a what is considered to be a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom house in Swarthmore, and we pay about $9,000 in taxes a year. So that will make my taxes on my 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom $15,000. So people who have 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, they're going to pay like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and even $60,000 if you continue this way. This has to be rethought. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak, please? You know, how it works. No, don't worry. Don't rush. You know how it works. I'm not starting. Don't worry. You know how it works.
Dave Sarator, I live on Morris Lane in Nether Providence. I have 3 questions related to 3 different items under the finance portion of the meeting. And while I understand you don't answer questions back and forth from this podium to you folks, I was hoping that you'd write down my comments, and maybe during the time that you're about to discuss these particular items, maybe those comments that I make may be addressed at that time. So anyway, One thing I'm a little confused, back in 2022, 23, I thought we were, or I thought we did reclassify a bunch of things in the budget, so everything was basically where it needed to be. For years, apparently it wasn't. I struggled with that. I was a board member eons ago, and we had to fix that again. And item 11D, the approval of budget transfers. I was kind of surprised to see that we are transferring approximately $241,000 from account X to account Y. And I'm kind of just curious why that's still going. That was number one. Number two was relative to the budget. I'm just concerned about the expenses and how they're calculated. Total expenses for this year's budget was 102,437,505. I forget what the number was. Year to date, last month in May, we spent 82,746,582, leaving us a balance of almost 19,700,000. I guess my questions are this: will we spend that remaining $19.7 million in June? I know a lot of stuff happens in June, like debt service, but I'm curious, are we going to spend almost 20 million bucks in this last month? Do we project any of the unspent money to be transferred to the reserves? And it kind of got answered, but, and then is there an estimate of any unspent money that may move to the reserves? I would think we would have a pretty good handle on what that might be. I know we don't like to give educated guesses out loud because people run with it, but it's June 18th. There's only 12 days left in the school year. We should have a rough estimate at least. And then lastly, relative to the capital plan, my favorite subject, based on the information I provided administration in the last few days via email, I hope that I'm begging that this item on the agenda be tabled at this time. We need to compare this capital plan to the original plan that we were working on for the deferred maintenance. I forgot what the plan was called. Well, we prioritized to do things year one, year two, year three. So if we can speak to that when it comes to the capital plan, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Or actually, I'm asking to table it.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. And remember, just your name and what street you live on in our
Sure.
district, please.
Lara Moretti, Furness Lane in Wallingford, PA. And I'm here representing the potential host family for the international exchange student, which is on the agenda. Just wanted to say thank you for considering it. We're really excited about potentially hosting this young woman from Spain. We know her dad. He was an exchange student 30 plus years ago with my husband, not living with him, but they were friends, and we've maintained a relationship with this family, and they are looking for the same opportunity for their daughter. And we are really excited about hopefully hosting her come January of next year. So I just wanted to represent potential host family. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming to the meeting. Saying so. Appreciate that. Sir.
Good evening, Al Federico, Rutgers Avenue, Swarthmore. Dr. Johnson, welcome. My youngest graduated several years ago, but I did have an opportunity to go to the graduation this year. Well done, sir. Thank you. On behalf of the local rec organizations, we look forward to working with you because you're a big part of what we do to support the children of this district. With respect to the budget, thank you. That was a thankless task trying to explain all of that. One suggestion question, because I noticed you said that the assessed value had gone down within the district. Have the models you've run accounted for the 30+ new condos in Swarthmore, which should be going to sale, and they're supposed to be finishing by the end of this year. So hopefully that will bring that number back up and help out. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Al. Is there anybody else for items on the agenda this evening? Okay. Seeing none. Going to move on to the minutes of the May 19th, 2025. Do I have a motion for approval of the May 19th, 2025 minutes? A motion for approval, so moved. Mr. Miller, do I have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Ms. Witczek first, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? Discussion, okay. Suppose we could please take a roll call vote.
Mrs. Dolay,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Mrs. Witczek,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Ms. Moses. Moving on now to board committee reports. I'll remind everyone here and watching at home, the Educational Affairs Committee, the Facilities and Finance Committee, and the Policy Committee meetings are all on our district YouTube channel, and they are all updated. There was a Facilities and Finance Committee just last week. You heard Ms. Mosley talk about where we actually got into the details. We've done for quite a bit. I encourage anyone interested to watch them. So I'll move on to the Wellness Advisory Committee and Mrs. Dolay or Dr. Grant. Okay, and now I move on to the Delaware County Community College Liaison and Mr. Miller, if you have any.
We received their monthly report earlier today. Actually,
Thank you. That'll be attached. Moving on to the Delaware County Intermediate Unit, that's me, summertime, so there's no difference. Moving on to the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council and Mrs. Walker.
Just a couple of quick updates for the meeting on June 4th. On the federal side, federal judge halted the executive order that was aimed at dismantling the Department of Education and restated the 1,300 employees who were laid off. Education matters that are in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act are partially related to higher education. It does create a $5 billion in annual tax credits for scholarships and related expenses at K-12 private schools. And as we know, that's still making its way through consideration in Congress. State updates, the House and Senate are back in session as of the 2nd, and they'll be in from Mondays through Wednesdays for all of June. Because the budget deadline is approaching, which of course is essential to funding all of the assumptions that we've built into our budget from state revenues. Let's see. There are a number of bills and information on bills that will be in the will be close with today's meeting. There are a few that have made their way and are under consideration by the chamber at this point. So they've made it for both sides. Some publicly funded scholarships for students in low performing districts, students in non-public schools, instruction on Holocaust genocide, human rights violations, making them mandatory, and a mandatory universal reading screens K-3, and adoption of evidence-based curricula, and then a whole slew of things that are relating to teacher certifications in order to help address the teacher shortage. There's some newly introduced things that are pending committee action, and we'll see if they even move anywhere. So that's pretty much it today.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Now we're moving on to personnel. We have 29 items for action in personnel. I'm sorry, Mary Jo, I'm sorry, that is just rude on my part. I apologize. We have the Pennsylvania School Board Association and Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. With the June 30th budget deadline, just as Ms. Walker mentioned, PSBA is working hard to lobby our state legislatures to make sure that there is funding in that budget for special education, school infrastructure, safety, and mental health services. If you have not reached out to your state legislators, they're in session, and it is still time to reach them prior to the budget vote. AI, teachers are transitioning away now to from question and answer assignments and straightforward essays in favor of projects. And this is a way to teach students how to use AI and how to make it part of their problem solving when doing work in school. Funding schools, the Pennsylvania currently just sued the U.S. Department of Agriculture last week, saying that the agency had illegally cut off funding to it through a program designed to distribute more than $1 billion in aid to states to purchase food from farms for schools, child care centers, and food banks. So right now, we'll keep you posted on if that funding can return farms to school lunches. Addressing teacher shortage, again, Ms. Swarthmore said that there are now $8 million in grants to expand apprenticeship programs to address the teacher shortage. So that is all from PSBA.
Mr. Dawson Smith, we'd also like to just take a chance, an opportunity to extend our congratulations for the award that you received from the PSBA for your honor roll for years of service. We just know how much that matters to the students here and the work of PSBA across the state.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mary Jo, thank you for that, and congratulations from all of us on the board as well. Well deserving, by the way. You have been a heck of a proponent of our kids for a very long time, and you continue to be so. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We want to put time. Thank you. Sorry. Back up. 29 items for action personnel. I'll ask the board to consider items A through CC, and I'll ask for a motion for that. And then we will vote on items E, E, G, G, I, I, K, K, and M, M individually. They are the individual contracts. So I just want to make that clear. No, I cannot repeat that. I barely got that one out. So do I have a motion to approve items A through CC?
So,
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Walkman, thank you. Are there any items on items A through CC that the board would like to separate from the rest? Okay, seeing none, we'll have discussion. I'll start with Mr. Williams. It's you. Don't rush. Don't rush. They'll be in finance. Yeah. Bear with me, everybody. There's quite a few here. Okay, we have resignations and retirements. We have appointments. We have leave of absence, changes of position, changes of salary status, letter of recommendation payments, changes of salary status, non-bargaining payments, 2025-2026 conference requests, 2025 extended school year program, 2024-2025 spring athletic postseason supplementals, 2024-2025 activity supplementals, summer curriculum work, AP Physics 1 teachers, summer curriculum work, math teachers, grades 9 through 12, summer curriculum work, elementary art teachers, summer curriculum work, Strathaven High School, instruction and intervention, summer curriculum work, business English, grade 12, summer curriculum work, grade 6 ELA, summer curriculum work, Strathaven Middle School ELA, summer curriculum work, Strathaven Middle School math, summer curriculum work, French teachers, grade 6 through 12, summer curriculum work, AP seminar teachers. Someone put the word curriculum in there on purpose somewhere. Summer curriculum work, additional curriculum elementary, summer curriculum work, family and consumer science teachers, summer curriculum work, artificial intelligence at SHHS, summer curriculum work, electronic devices at Strathaven High School, summer curriculum work, school climate at Strathaven High School for new teachers, summer curriculum work, Act 94 committee, ScanTech Inc., and summer curriculum Act 48 committee at ScanTech Inc., and summer hiring authorization. Now is when I should have asked. there's, any discussion. So, after reading all those, is there any discussion on this? Mrs. Townsend, please.
I am very thankful for the dedication of our teachers who are spending this much time in their craft, in their career, in the dedication of our students to prepare for exciting instruction in the following year. So the number of courses that teachers are participating in is really very large. And I think that it's just a credit to the quality of teachers that we continue to have. So I want to note that and thank them.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Townsend. That's well said. Are there any other discussion or comments? Mr. Dolly.
Just a quick comment. I think it's really exciting to see the topic of artificial intelligence on our agenda and the beginning of hopefully along and
Here, here. Anybody else on the board? Okay. Ms. Moses, would you please take a roll call vote on items A through C?
Mrs. Dolly,
aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Ms. Witset, Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to letter EE, the Teamsters Bus Drivers Collective Bargaining Agreement. Do I have a motion to approve? What's that? Thank you. On a second. Ms. Williams, thank you. The Teamsters Bus Drivers Collective Bargaining Agreement is attached. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Witz, I'll start with you. I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in getting the collective bargaining agreement done. That was a lot of work, I know, on both sides. So I appreciate all the work that everyone put into it. Mr. Mosley, would you please take a roll call vote for item EE?
Mrs. Dolly,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. McCarthy Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item GG under personnel, Teamsters Bus Aides Collective Bargaining Agreement. Do I have a motion to approve item GG? So moved. Mr. Miller, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Walkman. Any discussion on item GG, Teamsters Bus Aid Collective Bargaining? Okay, Ms. Mosley, can you please take a roll call?
Mrs. Dolly,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Now moving on to letter II, under personnel compensation plan for confidential employees. Do I have a motion to approve letter II?
So moved.
Mr. Walkman, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Dolly, thank you very much. Any discussion on letter II? All right. Ms. Mosley, would you please take a roll call?
Mrs. Dolly,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman,
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to letter KK under personnel compensation plan for salary supervisory employees. Do I have a motion to approve? Mrs. Witset, thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Mrs. Wachowski Smith, thank you. Do I have any discussion? Letter KK. Ms. Mosley, would you please take a roll call?
Mrs. Dolly,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to letter MM under personnel compensation plan for non-certified nurses. Do I have a motion to approve letter MM? Wachowski Smith, thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Witset, thank you. Any discussion on letter MM under personnel? Okay, Ms. Mosey, would you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Dolay,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mrs. Watman,
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wakowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, everybody, for sticking with me through that. So, and thanks to everyone on the work of all of those contracts. Moving on now to policy. We have one item for action in policy and one administrative regulations for review, not for approval. Letter A, policies for second reading are attached. Do I have a motion to approve letter A, policies for second reading?
So moved.
Ms. Deloitte, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Walkman, thank you. Discussion for letter A, policies for second reading. Board members have any? No, they're all pretty self-explanatory. Ms. Mosey, would you please take a roll call?
Mrs. Dolay,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Ms. Witset, Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wakowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to curriculum, we have 13 items for action under curriculum. Are there any of those 13 items on the list that anyone on the board would like to separate from the rest? Okay, we have MOU with MCIU to access Montgomery Virtual Program. We have e-signature resolution form. Goodhart Wilcox Health and PE Resources. Addendum to the NWEA contract. Noodle Tools contract. Britannica Online contract. Mystery Science Learning A through Z RAS Kids. Wilson Fun Hub. Wilson Foundations Level 2. The 95% Group. International Exchange Student. Exchange and International Field Trips. That's all 13. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So Councilman Smith, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Walkman, thank you. Do I have any discussion? Go ahead, please.
Actually, just a real quick point of clarification for those who may not be aware, but regarding item M, the exchange of international field trips, these these are not at cost to the district. So clarify for those who are not. No.
That's an excellent clarification. Thank you. Any other comments on these items? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Mosey, would you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Dolay,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Mrs. Witset,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wakowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Now moving on to student services. We have 7 items for approval in student services. Is there any on the list that the board would like to separate from the rest? Okay, seeing none, we have educational service agreements as listed, homebound instruction, international exchange. Wait a minute. I'll start again under student service. Educational service agreements, homebound instruction, Valerie Wagner, SLP ESY, Elementary ESY Speech Pathology, LLC. Bill Company, Make the Distinction, Stephanie T. Walsh Consultant. That is all of them. Do I have a motion to approve items A through G under student services? So moved. Mr. Rasmussen, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any discussion on those items? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Mosey, will you please take a roll?
Mrs. Dolay,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Watman.
Aye.
Ms. Witset,
Aye.
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Wakowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to finance and facilities, we have 21 items for approval in finance. Are there any items on this list anyone on the board would like to separate from the list? Seeing none. We have bills paid to vendors, May 1st through May 31st, 2025. We have financial statements, May 1st through May 31st, 2025. The treasurer's report, May 1st through May 31, 2025. The approval of the budget transfers, bank depositories, Borough of Swarthmore Tax Collector, 2025-2026 final general fund operating budget, receipt of donations, Singer Equipment Company, Eagle Wireless, Aardvark Pest Control Services, Performance Sports Turf Management, AF Damon, JMC, the Capital Plan as attached, Rico Paper Cut, Seesaw, Screen Castify, CDW Go Guardian, U Power School Messenger Secure File. That is all of it. Do I have a motion to approve those items under finance and facilities?
Mr. Henry, before you get that motion, you did actually miss one, which is.
I did?
It's listed on the agenda as being Fox Rothschild. It's not. It's really to resolve the tax assessment appeal. It's item K on it.
I skipped over it. It might have been, my apologies. For the purposes of, following Robert's rules, what do you recommend the best way to get that back in there?
It is already in. It's on the agenda. You were simply reading through them. So I just need to clarify for the public. It actually is part of the
Thank you.
items that are being asked, that you're asking for a motion to approve.
Gotcha. And it's letter K, on our agenda. Thank you. Confirmed. Do I have a motion to approve all those items under finance and facilities?
So moved.
Dr. Grandy, thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Chief Miller, thank you. Discussion, I'll start with, Dr. Grandy this time.
Just a few comments on a couple of the items in this section. First, thank you, Ms. Mosley, for walking the board through and the public through the budget. Again, much appreciated. I think you've done a lot of hard work to find savings in the budget. And at the same time, I do want to point out that there are a lot of investments in that budget in curriculum implementation, direct classroom supports, and bringing some contracted positions back into the district. So I just want to point out how some of these resources are being deployed, I think, over the next fiscal year. I also think that there's some important steps being taken to plan for the future while mitigating as much as possible the impact on the taxpayer. So I do think that the administration has put a lot of work into trying to come up with a balanced approach that, again, makes appropriate investments in education and really try to mitigate to the extent possible the impact on the taxpayer. We all know, and we've talked about some of the unique challenges in this district with our tax base, so dependent on a residential tax base that is very unique across the Commonwealth. So it's important to try to do all we can to mitigate that impact. I also want to make a few quick comments about the capital plan and importantly, talk about what we're voting on today, what it is and what it isn't. The capital plan is really just a roadmap for the district. And that roadmap is really focused on two factors. It's sequencing, and it's a broad sense of the scope of what projects are important to take on over the next 10 years. And that scope is really what we know today as of June 2025, what the critical needs are that we project over the next 10 years. And it's really important to have this 10-year time horizon to do appropriate fiscal planning, but then also to make sure that we are addressing the needs of the district and not continuing to defer them far into the future. But I do want to point out the capital plan, each and every project that is in there would still go through an intense design process and at that moment, a careful assessment of the scope, what's needed based on all the information available at the time. The plan itself will need to be continually updated as new information becomes available. So for example, construction costs are likely to change, borrowing costs are likely to change. We just updated our enrollment projections, but we'll look not to continue to do that every few years. And so it's important to recognize that a capital plan is really a living, breathing document that we continue to update over time. We don't, authorize something today and assume that everything in there is exactly as what we will do over this 10-year time horizon. So what we're voting on tonight is not to greenlight any particular project at this time. It's really to authorize the administration to take the initial steps with the first project, which I think we all agreed is a huge priority, which is the high school, so that the administration can begin to solicit proposals from project management firms to support that project. But again, there's no decision being made here today about the exact scope of what we will do at the high school and at the design of what we will ultimately undertake. It's also important to note that the administration will work with that project management team to take what I think is a lot of information that has been discussed in our facilities committee meetings and our finance committee meetings to turn what is currently some PowerPoint presentations that reflect our capital plan into a concise document to be made available, easily understood by the public, that again, we can continually update. And so I do want to point out to the public that on the WSSD homepage, there is a button at the top for capital plan. So if you're ever looking for a lot of the documents that are being discussed, that is the place to find them. All the presentations are in there. So, you know, this capital plan is long overdue. It was a priority that was outlined in the strategic planning process. When I think some of us first joined the board quite some time ago, there was a lot of year-to-year decision-making being made about capital projects that was more based on urgency rather than trying to project far in the future and doing appropriate planning. And so this is long overdue, and I'm happy to see it come to fruition.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly, you got any comments?
Since it's still on, I might as well say something. Dr. Grande, I really want to thank you for your leadership and us to this point as you indicated. Not many years ago, it seemed at this point, we were in that position. It was something that we talked about then when the roadmap of out and your support of the support of the finance committee, Ms. Mosley's support and Ms. Miller, coordinator, and I appreciate the to levels that what it is and what it's not. But we're trying to move forward without having a guiding document like that to think about.
I would like to change talk about the 16th, but I know there was I wanted to kind of clarify things as to why I support their hiring, and so clarify the two nurses, mental health counselors, and middle school and high school athletic trainers. Correct me if I'm wrong. Those are positions we've had, but have been contracted out, and we are bringing them under the first. So that is pretty much a lot. In terms of the remaining ones that we have 2 6th grade teachers. I have a writing writer, and Dr. Matt Senka told us at the opening or at the kind of thing that this current rising 6th grade class is the largest WSSD has ever had. So there's 2 new 6th grade teachers. There's a 6th grade teacher at West. There's a science teacher at the high school. There are 2 autistic support teachers, and there's a middle school teacher. Those are people that have direct touches on our kids. That direct impact, I guess, would be the better phrase. But you know, that I would always before that's what we the only 3 positions that don't have direct student touches, the procurement coordinator, which we have been pretty much the district, and then of course the ISO support and the coordinator, and we are local support for those 2. So I personally think that that's why I am.
Thank you. Moving down, so like, please.
Yeah, I was going to say the same sort of, you know, just sort of address these new positions. Because I think, you know, some of what was stated may be a bit misleading. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about these positions. I actually think moving from external to internal will be at a cost savings for the district. I mean, I don't know that it's a wash in all cases. I think sometimes it saves us money to bring in house. agreed about the procurement coordinator. I would also say as well, we've got 3 positions here to support our teachers who are going to be implementing a brand new curriculum, K to 5. And I think it's very important that we support our teachers through that. And that is something that, not every year do you embark upon a K through 5 curriculum. So I just wanted to say that. I also wanted to clarify that approving this capital plan does not preclude us addressing deferred maintenance. And I think you mentioned that, Dr. Brown, that, that is still very much a focus of, this board and our district. So I wanted to clarify that as well. And then lastly, I wanted to thank the individuals who donated. There were 2 donations that I featured, and then just Patrick, congrats on your Eagle Scout award, becoming an Eagle Scout. So that's it for me.
So, Ms. Mosley, thanks very much for the presentation. You're a kind of a just the facts presenter, which I appreciate, but I want to put a little context on that and give you some accolade on that. In my this will now be my second budget that I pass as a member of this board, and I've had the luxury to be able to give a tax increase below the Act 1 index. And that's because of the financial controls that you put into place, multi-year contract budgeting, the expense codes, while boring, are extraordinarily important for you to create baseline budgets that allow you to not only have some budgetary control, but have reallocation. And one of the things that I pointed out in the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting, one of the #1 drivers of any organization is people. And if you look back at the charts, we have about a $4.5 million increase in salary and benefits over the course of next year's budget. But the total budget only goes up by $2.9 million. So the #1 driver isn't even the total amount that the budget goes up because of the financial controls and the reallocation. And we've talked about the positions, being thoughtful about that, being thoughtful about the procurement coordinator. And again, with the capital plan, I encourage people to watch the Facilities and Finance Committee meetings. It did not come out of nowhere. It's been 2 years of discussion. And like I said there as well, people can be so careful that they do nothing. And with no action forward, that would be what we would be in danger of. So by putting it in a roadmap and allowing Dr. Johnson to work with his team to move us forward in a capital planning prudent way, can't wait to vote yes for it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Smith. That's it. All right. I just wanted to echo Mrs. Dole. I want to thank our Eagle Scout, local Eagle Scout who's donating the project, doing the project in middle school. That's great. Congratulations. And also, I want to thank the NPE PTO, who is donating a significant amount of money for sunshade. So all of that work. So thank you for that. Also, thank you to Dr. Grandy for kind of laying out what we've been doing and kind of making it very clear and easy to understand what a capital plan is and is not. I wholeheartedly support it. Like Mr. Miller said, we have been talking about this for a very long time. There's been a lot of thoughtful work in there. It's long overdue. We have a project timeline in there that everyone can see and allows us, voting for it allows us to keep moving forward, planning for the future so that we don't get stagnant. So I am happy to support it. I'm also happy to support our hires because I think our school district will support our students, which is at the end of the day what we're here for. So is there any further discussion on all of those items? All righty. Ms. Mosley, would you please take a roll call?
Mrs. Dole,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Whitman,
Aye.
Mrs. Woodsett,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to other, we have one item for action under other, which is the 2025-2026 Delaware County Technical Schools budget as attached. Do I have a motion to approve letter A under other?
Number.
Nelson Smith, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Walkman, thank you. Discussion. Okay, seeing none. Ms. Mosley, would you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Dole,
Aye.
Dr. Grande.
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mrs. Whitman.
Aye.
Mrs. Woodsett,
Aye.
Mrs. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Kowski Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Now moving on to audience recognition or items not on the agenda tonight. Again, I don't go through it again. Please state your name, street you live in our district, and remember to stick to a 3-minute time limit. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak to items not on the agenda? Please, sir.
Hello, members of the board, Superintendent Johnson, welcome, by the way, and general public. I'm Dean Dennis, Emerald Lane, Media PA. I'm back again, of course, and where else would I be at this school year's end, at the last board meeting for this school year? For a recap, for people who may not know why I'm here, about 5 months ago, Alex, fourth grader, at the school was assaulted by a school district employee, a bus aide, was basically forcibly pushed to another seat. He came home frightened, concerned, and asked, "Is this right?" I told him that I would address it. I informed Paul. Paul was informed. Slode was informed. The Director of Transportation, Babbitt, and Scanlon, they're all informed. Initially met with denial, and then met with it would be handled internally. Pretty much just move along, nothing to worry about, but no accountability and no apology. So I presented myself to the board multiple times, making multiple entreaties to address this, but everything has fallen on deaf ears. So yes, of course I'm back. I'm back again to address the issue. Hopefully asking, wanting the board to make things right. I'm here on Alex's behalf and his dignity. I'm seeking from the board an apology on behalf of the perpetrator of this assault and the perpetuators of this nonsense. This is just wrong. This needs to take place. We all need this accountability and this apology to move forward. Focus on things that are more important. But this restoration is key to the integrity of the system, of the school board, of the school district. It's important to continue to have faith in how the system and process works. And thirdly, it's important for his dignity. So I come before the board tonight seeking an apology and accountability to resolve this matter once for all, to move on. And that's all I ask, nothing more. Nothing more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to, is there anybody else here that would? Sure. Okay, moving on to old businesses. Is there any new business? Nope. Okay, just before we end, I just wanted to, a couple comments just ended the school year, and I wanted to thank the district staff and the teachers, and the classroom aides, the bus drivers, the safety security aides, nurses, support staff, food service staff, maintenance, custodial staff, the principals, vice principals, and all the administrators, many of whom are sitting over there on camera. And hope I didn't leave anybody out, for all your hard work and support of our students this year. I want to personally thank Dr. Scanlon for helping us make this last school year so successful. I also want to welcome again Dr. Johnson. We're thrilled to have you. I also want to thank all the community members. Some who were here and left, but some were once here, so that's great. But all the community members and parents and caregivers who came to all of our meetings throughout the year. We have a lot of people we see a lot, and then we have people we see occasionally. We had a lot of people coming to discuss the cell phone policy throughout the year, and I really appreciate all of their participation. It is invaluable. We need as much participation from our community members and caregivers as possible. And finally, I want to thank my fellow board members that are all sitting here for your excellent work and countless hours spent in meetings and executive sessions and committee meetings and responding to emails and talking to constituents and answering phone calls and even more meetings. This job is very rewarding. It is, but it can be demanding. But you really stepped up this year. We worked as a team. I was proud to be part of it. When we worked hiring a new superintendent, it was a really inspiring work that we did. You worked as a team and never lost sight of what is most important, which is our students. And I say this every year at the end of the school year. It is an honor to sit at this table. So everyone have a fun summer, have a safe summer, and I'll see you back here in August. Meeting adjourned.